trust and for ensuring succession during the change of leadership of our university. Also, I thank you for your principled position on the assessment of Russian aggression against Ukraine. It's very important for our university and for our country. Our university agree with all positions and all of strategic directions of activity of BSUN, and we are ready to work with you in all of directions in this strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Professor Zulfikar, would you like to say also a few words? Because, our colleagues from Ukraine, they are in such a special situation.
Welcome again. I'm happy to see all the friends and from the Ukraine again. Of course, for the future, we are waiting for very good peace in our area, and the BC Black Sea region should have a bright future. And for the education, for the scientific activities, and today rector from the University of Kiev will be here. We will talk to him for the future events, and thank you very much for joining with us.
Thank you, Professor Zulfikar. Thank you for participation of Professor Melnichuk. Of course, when something like this is happening in our region, is affecting all of us. So in all this process, we, how can I say, we are close, and we shall be always close to our peers, to our colleagues that are in need. And in this context, all activities that BSUN carried out during this time was for, let's say, blaming this unprovoked aggression of Russia against Ukraine. And this led to the closure of so many schools and universities and everything. And now, due to this war, this year, for instance, maybe you know, Ukraine started to build, as far as I know, something like 8 schools underground. Can you imagine where we are moving in the 21st century, bringing our kids down to the underground in order to have the opportunity to educate them? So it's something that cannot be qualified, and of course we cannot have any other position as academics, as intellectuals in this region. So in this context, because we are characterizing this period, a period of grand transformations, we initiated this process, and I would like to say in few words a little bit, let's say, an introduction, just to get all people acquainted why this meeting and what is the scope of this meeting. So we are in a very complex situation. We all know this. This is already a truism, that it is an overlapping of different, let's say, challenges and deep and extended transformations. The unprovoked aggression of Russia against Ukraine that led to a very weird war, totally or mostly covered on the news and having a huge impact in all media and shaping in different ways all our lives. So probably in the history of humanity, this will be, let's say, marked as such a very strange war that was done between two countries with such deep and old history of confrontations, but also of collaborations, of working together, and so on. So, of course, this will have very deep consequences for many, many decades afterward. The second extremely important aspect is also related to this because from the beginning of the war, even these days, there are complex negotiations for setting up a new geostrategic setup. Not only in the region, we see that the situation in our region is connected with many different other regions, and the negotiations are, let's say, connecting different areas that have nothing in common in a day by day activity. So we are moving and we are, let's say, under the pressure of all these transformations. Then, of course, up to now, we were discussing about climate change. We were discussing about sustainable development goals. We were discussing about all these global strategies. But recently, it was announced that already the 1.5 centigrade, let's say, warming difference of temperature has been already raised, and now it's a sort of how can I say, a sort of a backslash. You remember the meeting in New York, a meeting that was intended to be one of the, let's say, meetings for the future of humanity. But in reality, during the negotiations of resolutions and so on, everything was in some sense connected, at least to continue with the current agenda for sustainable development. And this was considered the major achievement of the meeting in September, the fact that the people didn't stop the, let's say, global agenda for sustainable development. And this has, of course, a huge consequence in many different other global and regional initiatives. Of course, the other issue is related to complex demographic processes like the depopulation, the problem of migration, emigration, immigration, aging, and brain drain, all of them being overlapped, and there is almost a turmoil of all this complexity of demographic processes affecting all our regions in some way or another. And of course, on top of everything is this emergence of new technological divides. We are talking about artificial intelligence, about different type of digital tools, quantum and so on, robotics, biotechnologies, new breakthroughs in genetic engineering and geoengineering. So all these things are, let's say, generating a fantastic complexity. All these issues have been, of course, discussed. We had from the meeting in Bucharest in 2022, we had, let's say, a period of different debates, of consultations, and different aspects of these grand transformations that are occurring around us, that are, let's say, pushing and pressuring us on a daily basis, have been identified. And with all these, let's say, lessons learned, we gathered last summer in in Istanbul, in July, and we had a fantastic gathering. We would like once again to thank Professor Zulfikar and to his team for outstanding way of organizing this event. We are also thanking to our colleagues from the World Academy of Art and Science because they've been so kind to join us. but many different other organizations, they come together. And during these days of debates in Bucharest, they were identified, distilled, let's say, pathway. How is the academic community looking into this, let's say, complexity of transformations, and what kind of pathway could suggest for our region? And I would like, and I have underlined here, the first basic element of the declaration, that the essential need for any kind of human security and prosperity of our region is a sustainable peace. So this is something fundamental. This has to be very, very clearly outlined. It has to be on the agenda of all decision makers of the region, that this has to be, let's say, promoted. But besides of this, the meeting in Istanbul defined also the basic principles that, let's say, have been identified by the let's say, community of rectors. And these principles are very simple. So we have, let's say, hammered this set of these 5 principles. The first one is the fundamental right to have access to the most important discoveries and achievements in science and culture and in all fields of research. And here, the university and the universitas, in the, let's say, general acception of European term, we could say for universities as the open space for debates, for free thinking. It has to be the best place where all this dissemination process has to happen. Then, of course, it is about identification of the crucial ecosystems that is not about identifying any other ecosystem, because all ecosystems are affected. There is nothing clean around us. We succeeded to pollute the entire habitat around us. We find plastics in air in the top of the mountains. We find different type of particulates, cancerogen particulates in every place of the world. Now it came the time to identify the most crucial that are affecting our life. And of course, they have to be secured and declared as an intangible heritage. The third principle is about showing a path. So the creative energies of humans have to be directed into a positive aspect that is adding value to the human condition. And the fourth principle is when we identify issues that cannot be solved and will be not solved in a short term, the best thing is to isolate them and to make sure that is not affecting continuously our lives, and to try to find out a setup to secure us. The last one, of course, is that education must be a fundamental concern for the proper evolution of the humanity. So these 5 principles, of course, have to guide us in addressing any kind of challenge. So during the meeting in Istanbul, there were discussed a large number of different challenges for the region, and many of them have been identified. But we succeeded to include in the declaration a number of 12. Those 12 areas are not necessarily restrictive. they are just orientative because, as we see in such a grand transformation era, everything is changing. So, as implementation guidelines, the meeting in Istanbul, of course, offer the floor for debates, and we finally arrived to this conclusion. So, addressing any problem for our region doesn't matter if it's about artificial intelligence or is mattering about future of education or for encouraging the young generation in our activities. It has to start with a critical diagnosis for seeking to address limitations on each of the evaluated aspects of the society. And then, of course, we have to substantively point on ways of depending and expanding understanding, our understanding, of course, at the scientific level, but also in the implementation and application level in the society, and methodologically move beyond the critic to pluralize and diversify ways of thinking and knowing as a precondition for expanding our capacity to imagine and understand transformational futures. So it is a long journey that we would like to start for our region because we have also a very important heritage in our region for millennia of collaborating and working together. So, as a first step, of course, after the meeting in Istanbul, Professor Zulfikar had many different contacts. He had, let's say, different trips. One of the most important, it was a trip also to Chisinau, for instance, participating to the joint conference of rectors from Romania and Moldavia, where he exchanged also many opinions with the participants. And after this process in December, proposed to the executive board the first three, let's say, main priorities. The migration problem, because we all are affected by this process of migration, as I mentioned a little bit early. Of course, in a broader acceptance, because in different parts of our region, migration issues are different. Then the sustainable development in the light of the implementation of the UN agenda for sustainable development from perspective of course, scientific support, providing, let's say, scientific evidence for decision makers and so on. And finally, human security, also in a broader acceptance, as it has been proposed by the United Nations, as, let's say, a covering topic for many of these challenges. So, looking to these three priorities, of course, looking also to the resolution of the United Nations General Assembly that was, let's say, that was defining the human security as an approach to assist the member states all around the world in identifying and addressing widespread and cross-cutting challenges to the survival, livelihood, and the dignity of their people. And it calls for people-centered, comprehensive, context-specific, and prevention-oriented responses that strengthen the protection and empowerment of all people. So we shall have also some more explanation with this from our colleagues from the World University Consortium. So it was a fantastic chance also for us to have this opportunity to have the input on behalf of our colleagues and support. We are also waiting the let's say, connection of Professor Sorin Costree, who is the president of UNICA. You know, UNICA is the Association of Universities from European capital cities. He's going to change any minute. We are waiting also for him. Now, meanwhile, I would like to introduce our colleagues that have been invited from the World University Consortium. And I would like to introduce Professor Ralph Wolf. He is a personality well known in the US, participating for many years, heading many different accreditation councils and having a broader activity not only in the US but also abroad. And from that perspective, we wanted to explore a possibility to take the advantage of Ralph on the way of implementing, let's say, on the ground, the conclusions and the recommendations, and of course, at the end, the decisions of the executive board of BSUN to start these working groups. So to give a first, how can I say, proposal on how we can make it, Ralph is going to start a presentation together with our colleague friend Grant Schreiber. He is also from the World University Consortium. Together, they will make this presentation. So, Ralph, are you there? They are both in America now at this moment in their time zone is midnight. So thank you very much, Ralph, for joining us in this period.
Thank you, Eden, and greetings, everyone. And I'm privileged and delighted to be with you. My purpose here is to propose a collaboration that builds on the work of the World Academy of Art and Science. When they participated, when WAAS participated with you in your last meeting in Istanbul, and the World University Consortium it provides an opportunity to follow up on your three major areas. So I'd like to present a proposal and a little background and hope that we could work together. Do have a slide presentation and welcome the opportunity for questions or feedback. And I know afterwards we'll be able to talk. I won't take too long. But enough that I think to give you the possibility and the outline of a proposal. With me is Grant Schreiber, who works with both the World Academy and with WC, the consortium. So we're delighted to be able to work with you and present this. Eden, do you want to put up?
Yes, immediately, sorry.
And I will say it's been a pleasure to work with Eden, and I hope we can move forward in working with you and others.
Yeah, so just 1 second, Ralph. I'm sharing the screen now.
Great. Thank you. So let's move to the World University Consortium is a separate nonprofit founded in 2013. And we are the educational or the university educational arm of WAAS. There were 12 organizations that organized it in 2013. It actually began at the first conference on the future of education. I attended that at the University of California, Berkeley, and it's had 7 international conferences on the future of education. Our goal at the consortium is to focus on how we might work together with universities, with other consortia like yours, to transform educational systems to resolve and address global issues. And we know that education is key to addressing any and all of the major issues facing society. We draw upon the World Academy of Art and Science. It's founded in 1960 by Nobel laureates, but we have 700 fellows, about 250 that are active. And so for the project, we would be drawing upon many of the fellows from WAAS, were we to go forward and to use their expertise. Some extraordinary people from all over the world, particularly from Europe, working on sustainability, human security, positive peace, a whole range of issues. Let's move on. And that's me when I was younger. I don't like so much talking about myself, but I have had the privilege of heading up a number of organizations, trained as an attorney, and actually was one of the founders in the early 70s of a very innovative law school. I've been board members internationally and in the US. My major claim to fame, I would say, is for 17 years, I headed up one of the 7 major accrediting commissions in the US, serving over 1.5 million students, close to 200 colleges and universities, including Stanford, Caltech, Berkeley, the University of California system, and a number of liberal arts colleges. I failed retirement, and I founded, after I left WASC, the Quality Assurance Commons, which was to integrate workforce and employability skills to more align academic programs to the changing character of the workforce, as employers repeatedly were telling us that graduates are not well prepared. And it's still in operation. I set it up, raised $4 million, and worked with the state systems in 2 states, Kentucky and Connecticut, to evaluate the academic programs and the integration of workforce skills. And we developed a rubric, a framework that I will share with you, that I'm proposing that we might use for a proposed project. So, one of my work today, I work with startup institutions, one in Europe, several in the US. And every institution I work with is dealing with the same kind of instability, addressing the political instability it's a global issue, declining birth rates. I just read a report that showed in the US, employers are saying, study was done, that the misalignment of employability skills and the changing workforce is costing business over $1 trillion. We're seeing increasingly problems of motivation and of Gen Z students, of current students who've been raised on social media. They read less. AI is having a major impact. Why do the work if you can have a summary done immediately for you? Financing higher education is increasingly a problem with the business models. And it's also true that to build brick and mortar institutions, to fill all the needs, we don't have the finances to do that globally. So we're going to need to rely on technology, and we have to build models that ensures quality education. Artificial intelligence is already having a major impact. Sam Altman, founder of ChatGPT and OpenAI, just read an article where he says that within the decade, AI will outrace human thinking. So we need to learn what are the skills, how to work with it, and the human skills. And this is really going to be important, I think, in addressing human security. I've spent a lot of work on accreditation and quality assurance systems in Europe, in Asia, and in the US. And we need to create ways that recognize quality without the rigidity that a lot of quality assurance agencies impose. And I hope we can develop some innovative approaches with the project. So there is a need to build good examples of transformative education. Out of one of the conferences that we ran between WAAS and WC together on the future of education, we came up with this kind of model of what an old paradigm, new paradigm would be. And a lot of this is now absolutely possible and being done from subject-centered, faculty-centered to student-centered learning paradigm with active learning, problem-solving, collaborative group learning. And with technology, we can do individualized learning. That we're seeing a lot of competency-based programs in the US that's individualized, mastery-based. One can't lose the values, and we need to inculcate with students what are the values that, particularly with human security, that put humans at the center, not machines. We need to be able to bring together, integrate knowledge, be able to understand what's going in the world. I've heard the term global awareness of global issues, but the ability to address them in a local context. So going on to say that we need to, I personally am working with the new agencies to certify learning apart from formal accrediting bodies. And I think that AI will bring that very possible. But the main thing is we need to see how do we assure the quality of the learning experience and develop the whole person. So I hope that work we can do together will help move from the left side to the right side if we can work on a project addressing human security. So let's talk more about what our involvement with human security. Grant will talk about that. The WAAS and WC have been involved very deeply for the last several years. Grant can explain what we've been doing, and we want to build on this. Grant?
Great, thank you, Ralph. Let me just share my screen. So, the World Academy of Art and Science was invited to run a global campaign in 2022 by the United Nations Human Security Trust Fund. We ran it for 18 months. We pulled in around 20 organizations around the world from various disciplines. The concept of human security has been around since 1994, when the UNDP Human Development Report first coined the phrase and decided to elaborate on it. And since then, the Sustainable Development Goals had taken over, and everyone's very familiar with the 17 SDGs and the little colorful icons. And the United Nations approached the World Academy to create a global campaign to raise attention around human security. Everyone was very familiar with SDGs, but nobody had heard of human security. Everyone assumed that it was military security or police or personal security. So for 18 months, we created collaborations with more than 20 organizations around the world. Many of them were educational. And we tried to indicate how we would combine human security with all the different disciplines that are out there. We put it to practice with a couple of key partners, and I've mentioned the UN already. 3 other ones that were very notable were the Consumer Technology Association, which is the world's largest technology event. And when we first approached them, they couldn't see the connection between human security and technology. But then when we made them realize that almost everyone in the world has a mobile device in their hands, it's a very powerful tool for, as we know, for spreading ideas, for education, online learning, for sourcing information. And suddenly they adopted it in a big way. And so for the 3rd year running, this past January, last month, we were in Las Vegas at the CES Consumer Tech Show with 140,000 people of the world's leading technology leaders. And we had, for the 3rd year running, we had human security as the theme of the show. So we've reached millions of people through that. And we've been put onto high-level panel discussions. We had 2 discussions in January, one on digital health and another one on education and AI. And so what we at CES to do is to convince technology leaders that they have the tools. They need to apply the social good on top of the tools that they're producing for technology. And so we're busy influencing thousands of technology leaders every year towards human security. Interparliamentary Union, IPU, last year we developed a human security toolkit for parliamentarians in 181 countries. We worked with them for over a year to try and put the concept of human security into a framework that could be taught. It's one of the projects, I think, which is very close to what we're looking at right now with World University Consortium, how we take this idea of the 8 pillars, which we'll do on the next slide, of human security, and how we turn that into a tangible product that we can actually use to teach people about human security. The Inter-Academy Partnership, which represents 150 national academies, we're busy crafting a joint statement on human security with them, which will be going out sometime this year. Then the World Academy for the last 9 years has held 7 international conferences on the future of education. Education is a very important project of the World Academy. And we've had international conferences around the world in major cities. And some of the people we've collaborated with, you can see on the right-hand side at the bottom, we have all the logos of some of the institutions. The top picture, just to quickly explain, was a 4-story high projection of our human security project onto the main entrance of the CES technology show. It was the only concept at CES that was not a technology project or a technology gadget or a technology company. So we were quite proud to have been exposed to such a wide audience in such a big way. Let me just get to the next slide here. There we go. So since 1994, there have been 7 dimensions or pillars, as they're called, of human security. And a year and a half ago, in conjunction with CES, we added an 8th pillar, which is technology. We realized that, as I said earlier, the power of technology is global and has huge implications for education, especially around the world, in terms of affordable and easy access. So this is where we convinced the United Nations that we needed to add an 8th pillar. And we held a special session at the United Nations in September, year before last, where we announced to the world that technology was being added. Since then, we've been exploring technology tools. AI is great for learning, but we're also looking at access, and with that comes access to Wi-Fi, access to infrastructure, electricity on a basic level, and how that all corresponds to a global idea on a world university. I think it was just those two slides I was doing, Ralph.
Do you want to just keep going, or can you do that with the slides, Grant?
I'm just trying to see where the slide is on my side here.
If not,
You can stop, and I could continue if you want, Grant.
I just wanted to mention that the
Okay.
importance of human security. Just one last thought is that it goes beyond the traditional education of separate compartments of self-contained knowledge, and that we're looking at a more holistic approach of people's aspirations, attitudes, hopes, fears, and cultural perceptions. A polymath, even a few years ago, used to be a rare person to come across, but increasingly it seems as if people are needing that multidisciplinary approach, especially with the rise of technology and the speed of how things are changing. So looking at the other aspects of education, I think are really important. And so we're very keen on trying to develop a global educational framework that looks a little bit wider than just pure academic, and looking at the human aspect, a human-centered approach to education. And obviously, we're needing to equip young people to meet the challenges of the future, which are growing by the day and month. And that takes a different way of thinking. So we really are convinced and working towards a human security approach, and how we compile that and convert it into a tangible learning course for youth around the world. I'll stop there, Eden.
thanks, Grant. Eden, can we?
Yeah, first, Grant, you have to stop sharing.
Right. There we go.
Okay. And now
So where that leads is we'll talk about a formal proposal of how we might proceed, and want to acknowledge the creativity and the innovation and the importance of the three major areas that the executive board has agreed to. And our idea is that human security needs to become much better understood. We need to develop an integrated transdisciplinary framework for how human security affects everything in our world. And I'd like to propose a way of approaching this using the methodology that you all have chosen, that I've learned that with respect to human security, there are three areas that you're working on: education, programming, research, and community engagement. And we were thinking within that framework that our first stage would be to develop a pilot of groups of institutions in those three categories that would develop approaches, how they would approach human security using transdisciplinary approaches. So not just one single discipline, but the 8 pillars of human security really provides, as Grant was saying, a unique opportunity to look at a problem from multiple dimensions. And so we would hope that that would be undergird the approach that you would take rather than a single disciplinary silo. I'll share with you in a minute a framework, a rubric that I've used both at the WAAS Accrediting Commission for 100 universities, including Berkeley, Stanford, and others. But let's just say that the model would be we'd get a group of programs and institutions to work. And the fun is to really share with one another, to engage around this issue of developing human security. We would do field testing of a rubric, get your feedback. There would be self-assessment, and we would provide certification of those programs that achieve a level of excellence that we agree upon and promote that certification. We would like to acknowledge where there is positive activity going on, and we have found that to be very valuable in doing this in other venues. We did this and are doing this with the Quality Assurance Commons. We did it doing it at WASC, and so it's a way of acknowledging where there is excellence. So the way in which we would approach this is that each participant would be developing. This would be for an educational program. We would develop it similarly for research and for community engagement for the three areas. And we would field test, are these the right areas in the left-hand column? But it's what is to evaluate first on a self-assessment, and then to have experts evaluate a submission, but to evaluate where are we with respect to pedagogy, transdisciplinarity, student engagement, faculty expertise in this area. How do we demonstrate impact? How are we integrating technology? And where are we? And we find that self-assessment is really valuable, whether it's initial, just getting started, emerging. We've tried things, but we haven't really evaluated it. Developed means we're really using it and we're trying to understand how well it's working and have some preliminary evidence. And highly developed is we have a feedback loop that it's really working well. And we find the self-assessment provides an opportunity for faculty to say, where are we? How can we improve? And so the value of this is what we have found with working with dozens and dozens of programs is the self-assessment becomes an opportunity to learn together, to work together, to involve students, and to improve. And then the next stage would be to have external evaluators, experts, look at a brief report that each program would provide on its activities, and they would evaluate it using the same rubric and score it. And for those that achieve a certain level of scoring that we agree upon, to award certification. So we would do this for each of the areas, as I said, for educational programming, research, and community engagement. And we have a timeline that we could do this over 2 years. Eden, let's look at the next slide. So the first stage would be to see if we wanted to proceed, that we would invite programs to apply, to participate. We would get feedback on the evaluation framework, the framework for any written report that would be submitted into each of the three areas. And we would do that over several months. And there would be a kind of a designated lead for each program. And we would see whether monthly or bi-monthly calls of the leaders and to share innovation, how you're approaching it, and the like for cross-fertilization. We would field test the assessment techniques and the self-evaluation framework, invite each program to undertake the self-evaluation, and offer preliminary feedback on it. And the third stage, feedback would be on the self-evaluation, continue the project, involve students, and we would then recruit external reviewers who are trained, and we would provide training for them, the same framework that we would use with you all. And to score those score the reports that you all would submit, and they would not be terribly long, and determine which programs had achieved a level that warrants certification. And our proposal would be to hold a conference of all the program leads and others to really share what we learned from all of this. And our goal is to turn this into a global project, that you would be the first, but we would like to work in other countries with other consortia, with universities, in conversation with others. But we'd like to see if this would be something that you all would find valuable and interested to do. And our experience with doing this is there's tremendous value gained around self-assessment and improvement, and value in interacting with experts on how can we improve and do a better job. We need to, and ultimately the goal is to make human security something that can be better understood, better developed through curricula, through community engagement, putting humans at the center. It's such a powerful device or framework for looking at things beyond a single discipline. And our hope is that you could help launch this whole evaluation framework, be the leaders, and that we would then be able to take that, share the experience, what worked, how we can improve at doing this, and turn this into beyond BSUN, beyond your own network, but to expand it even within your own as an ongoing process. So that's the idea, and we hope it would build on the work that you are doing and be an exciting way to combine the resources of the World Academy and the World University Consortium. Our experience is that it can be a very positive experience, and look forward to questions or any ideas that you may have, and we're open to starting with this and improving it through the feedback that you all would provide, those who participate. So Eden, I turn it over.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Grant. You made a fantastic job. I have to remind to our colleagues that you are speaking at the midnight in Sedona, and it's almost 1 hour in the morning for Grant. So once again, thank you for this effort. We shall take immediately some answers, but with your permission, I would like to welcome Professor Sorin Costree, who is the president of UNICA. UNICA is the network of universities from Europe, because is the network of universities from European capital cities, and is, of course, bringing together and developing a framework at that level. And just in 2 words, I would like to say to Professor Costree that we started by the introduction of Professor Zulfikar. We have, let's say, the exceptional participation of Professor Melnichuk, the new rector of Ukraine National Technical University, here with us. And further, I have presented just in summary what we did in Istanbul and further on in the executive board by defining principles and methodological approach for addressing different challenges of our region. In December, we stopped with these 3 areas. And the executive board decided to start organizing the working groups. So each working group is intended to be on one topic, for instance, a topic on migration or topic on sustainable development, and another working group on human security. And within these working groups, there will be 3 types of focus. one focus on education program, the second one focus on research, scientific research activities, and the third one is particularly community involvement. In all of these three areas, they will be promoted this transdisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity approaches, as it was mentioned. And uh, Professor Ralph Wolf, he presented a methodological approach on practicality. So how we can make it in the next 2 years, how we can work. And he started with the education program. So this was my report to my friend Sorin Costre. Sorin, if you would like to say a few words.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Mahmoud. I would like to, congratulate and salute in the same time President Zulfikar and his team. I'm seeing his team. I think he left the room. Günaydın. And also all the best to all the participants. I cut the presentation of Professor Wolf and Schreiber on human security. And that's an important aspect and dimension of our collaboration besides the sustainable development and migration, these three directions. Unfortunately, I'm not a specialist in neither of them. And my colleagues couldn't attend because of this short notice. So in the future, it's best to better organize and to announce it well in advance. And concerning UNICA, I am eager to collaborate. Entities with the European Parliament and European Commission. And at the end of the month, we'll have UNICA Days, which is dedicated to a topic very dear to our hearts, and namely the role of university networks like UNICA in the context of the European University Alliances, which is the new thing in Europe in terms of education, and that will change the European education in the next future. But I'm also here representing University of Bucharest, who is very involved and eager to collaborate in Black Sea University Network. Now Black Sea is very red, it's very hot, and it's a lot of interest, and I think we should take benefit of it and to attract ideas, funds, and specialists, such that to establish a good networking collaboration among us. So I'm here also to take questions if necessary. Otherwise, I congratulate these proposals, and University of Bucharest endorse them.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Costre. Thank you for this, let's say, broader approach in Europe. And now we are coming back to the core business. So before letting Ralph and Grant to go sleeping, if this is your last chance to, well, it's not the last because you have the possibility to send emails and so on. Actually, this activity is going to be an ongoing activity. And actually, this will be also something that we have to clarify in the next week. If a university is interested on one, two, or all three, because we received from all your universities the intention to participate in all these working groups. But the participation in working group is not just on paper. It should be, let's say, an involvement. Of course, we have to take care what Professor Costre mentioned is very important. We had to make it from a long time and to, let's say, check that everybody is participating, we shall take care of this. But in principle, this will be an ongoing activity. We shall let the working groups to organize themselves and to see how they are going to manage these meetings and so on. But the basic idea is that the universities, they have to select one program. So, for instance, for migration, in every university, there are some programs, even at the level of bachelor sometimes, but particularly in master level and also in PhD, there are different programs that are related to migration issues from different perspectives. So, first of all, we shall kindly ask your universities to decide which of these programs might be, let's say, involved in this activity. Then it will be up to the group to decide if they will select just bachelor or just master programs or only PhD programs. That's up to their area. Probably the most fruitful one, it would be the master level programs, but it's up to the working groups that will be established. And within this working group, of course, it will be proposed this methodology. But if the working group will accept it, it's okay. Then we have this assistance that was very generously offered by our colleagues. But if the working group members, they will say, no, we have our own, let's say, approach, and we would like to develop it, it's perfectly up to them. They will organize themselves. The basic idea is, first of all, to start a process of mapping of these programs, to know each other about what they are doing, then to understand exactly and specifically what is the focus of that program in their own country, and then to identify complementarities and, let's say, aspects that could be similar. And in a further approach, of course, this methodology rubric is very straightforward and very simple, because you start from the beginning by scoring yourself, considering where you are and what you would like to do. And then, of course, it will be a pool of best practices, of collaborative aspects that you can share with the other colleagues. And based on this, you could identify different possibilities of improving your program. This, if it will follow the procedure that was proposed by WC, then it will have also the support of WC and will go on up to a possible certification that could be offered by WC. If the universities, they are not interested about this certification and they would like to go with other type of certification, some of them which are national types, which for many universities are much more concerned of, but there are many universities interested on internationalization and any other certificate that is adding value to their image and to their strategy is very welcomed. So they could go on with this process. Now, of course, everybody probably has in mind, where are the money? And who is going to fund this kind of an activity? So usually the money are, of course, following this kind of approaches, because in principle, our role as Secretariat is to seek for different types of calls that could match and support this kind of processes. There are, you know very well that many Erasmus calls that could be addressed and could be, let's say, very good supporting framework for this. But there are also regional programs on behalf of the European Union addressing this. We have also some collaboration with the United Nations. There are different funds also on behalf of the United Nations and so on, and different other donors. So the money part will be our role of the Secretariat to seek and to come back to you and to offer, let's say, to outline the, let's say, opportunity for different projects. So we are starting with this first phase, seeking for interest and looking for how these universities could work together. In parallel, we have this first initial collaboration with WAAS that for the pilot phase is very generously offered as their own contribution. And in parallel, we are looking for, let's say, some funding opportunities. So more or less, this is the overall picture. I would like now to make a tour de table. So I would start from our colleagues. For instance, we have the colleagues from Georgia, Thea.
Yes, hello.
What is your opinion about this proposal? How do you see? Because I started with you because I know sure that you've been also in Istanbul and you have the whole picture more or less.
Yes, it would be interesting to explore, but as you've mentioned, most important thing would be to know what could be the funding sources. If we could identify from where we could start getting the practicalities of the applications, then we could channel down from top to down and see how we could fit in.
Thank you. So, Erekle, would you like to add something to this?
No, actually, Tia underlined everything. So practically, we are very interested, of course, but we'll see. We'll think about it and we'll work about it. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much. From Azerbaijan, we have Dr. Akhmadova and Dr. Irade Akhmadova and Emilia Akhmadova. If from your side, if you would like to say something.
Thank you, appreciate, and thank you definitely for this valuable and important proposal, let's say, but definitely we should communicate it with the head of the university and also go through the details as well as my colleague also from the Georgia mentioned there. This funding source is also important. Then we'll definitely turn back to you with the kind of final decision. Appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We see Mr. Rafael Chiloci.
Hello, everyone. I'm from Technical University of Moldova. Yeah. And I think it's interesting, obviously. Maybe we need more detail, what kind of involvement could be from our part. But it seemed for me, but it's interesting project. Okay. Just to need more detail.
To come back to your first question, the involvement will be full from your side in the sense.
I see, but
the involvement in the sense, because in the first phase, it will be a process of identifying a program.
Agree. I mean, maybe not just about the intensity, but the question is what kind of involvement. Okay, maybe just about that.
In the first phase, the department that is dealing, let's say, with the activities related to continuous improvement, quality management, accreditation issue, probably it will be their job, even international relation. They could, let's say, make a sort of search for identification of the interest on behalf of the other departments on topics related to migration. Of course, your university being a technical one, we are not talking necessarily from sociological point of view or other aspects, but they might be from a technical point of view because you've been involved in, let's say, digital literacy of the immigrants. You've been involved in some other type of activities related to that. You are much closer to the topic of sustainable development, for instance, and here it might be an interest, but also on human security. You've seen a little bit early the presentation of Grant and the presence of CES. So Grant is going to invite you next year to CES in Las Vegas to join the booth of that participation of Human Security for Action and so on. So here there are opportunities for some of the programs that you can have in these fields. And then with that program, then you have for each study program a sort of a representative or a coordinator of that program. And it will be the work of that coordinator. So the coordinator will be involved in identifying, let's say, the aspects that are of interest and to evaluate if this proposal of following the rubric methodology might be, let's say, appropriate for the strategy that your university and that department they have for improving this program.
Okay.
Yeah, so this will be the first phase. In parallel, as I said, we are searching money for you.
It may be a good topic for capacity building project. Now that I think about it, we have a program in migration studies, which was once developed as part of the capacity building project that we received from the European Union. It's a full-fledged master's program when we had a project that involved a very wide geography, all the way from Afghanistan to Portugal. TSU was the coordinator of the project, so we may think of developing something, an advanced version of
For
this type
sure,
of project.
capacity building was first on our, let's say, list. Preliminary thinking, what kind of sources we can do. We have quite a good experience. We are now at the second project that we are running, involving some of the Georgian University, Georgia Tech, Technical University, and the Maritime School from Batumi. So yes, that is a very good opportunity and a good source for fueling this kind of activity. But there are some others. We are talking about Interreg, for instance. Interreg Black Sea is also a good opportunity and so on. So thank you. So I see that Irade,
May I make additions?
Please.
Feyza Tuncer from Istanbul University, International Academic Relations Department.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this informative meeting. Just want to make a slight addition. We also propose for these working groups possible publications through universities, sources or other index sources that we can publish. So these working groups can come together and talk about topics to make publications to reveal what each person or group in individual universities are working on. So that would maybe make it easier if it's written. It would make it easier to propose a project for EU funding. Or with these, collectively, we can contact with our internal funding agencies like TÜBİTAK for Turkish site and other funding sources in other countries in the BSUN network. So they can open bilateral calls for these projects. That would be something the working groups could consider. So I propose that we have our three colleagues here from Istanbul University for the three disparate topics. I will be sending their contact information to you, Professor Mahmoud. So maybe it's the best that once everybody's sending their candidates for the working group heads, they can contact each other to start the meetings immediately, because we are ready for specific calls to be, published in our EU press magazines. So that's just my addition that I would like to make. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. Yes, we shall proceed immediately. We shall see very soon when is the next date. Thank you for the interest on behalf of Istanbul University. And this topic of publication, of course, it's a very important motivation also for the participating, let's say, staff. Now I'm moving to Romania. I see that from the I see that Irade Hanım has a question. Still, you have that question, Irade Hanım?
Eden Bey, thank you very much for organizing this inaugural meeting. And I would like to take this opportunity to warmly thank Mr. Ralph Wolf and Mr. Grant Schreiber for a very informative and thought-provoking presentation and introduction of human security. Indeed, when I was working in the United Nations, for us, human security was one of our priorities in the region, and it was really very interesting to see how the universities can contribute to human security. From the perspective of Baku Higher Oil School, it's my pleasure to support possible interactions with universities in promoting human sustainable development and sustainability. In fact, rector of Baku Higher Oil School, as you know, is an ardent champion for sustainability and sustainable development. And our university is the only one in Azerbaijan, if not in the South Caucasus region, which is producing an annual report on sustainable development, where we reflect how our whole educational program is aligned with 17 SDGs. And we would like to continue in this area cooperation with all interested universities. I myself am very interested in contributing to interactive collaborations, discussions, consultations, joint initiatives within the working group on sustainable development. Thank you very much, and wishing you best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we are moving to Romania. As I was saying, from Romania, we have several universities, but I shall start with Professor Kazaku from the University of Craiova.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure, and I think it's a privilege to be here with you. Thank you to all the speakers for their insightful information. We are on board, so to say, in a very adapted way with this project, especially because we have been taking part in a lot of activities within our European alliance, which is called ACROSS, and which deals exactly with cross-border issues. So everything that we are doing is in the same vein with our preoccupations. So we are very happy to be here and to collaborate with you in all respects. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We go to the north of Romania now, to Technical University of Iași.
Yes, hello everybody. First of all, it is nice to meet you all. It is my first interaction with you and with BSUN on behalf of the Technical University of Iași. Thank you for the presentation and for the proposal that we've heard from you today. Of course, we would appreciate it if we got the materials also, so we can have a good material to talk with and discuss with our colleagues at the university. Myself, I'm a computer engineer. I'm managing the ITNC and digital transformation of the university. So I see already lots of connections with what was presented today. But although we are a technical university, there are lots of topics that are addressed in our university, both from educational as well as research and innovation points of view. So at first sight, it is a very thoughtful proposal, and we would definitely take it into consideration. I'm sure we could work on refining the methodology and how we could address it and work efficiently on that. So yeah, thank you for the meeting today.
Thank you. Now, of course, we are coming back to Professor Costre as representing the group of University of Bucharest this time. So, from your perspective, Professor Costre, having a general image about the programs within the University of Bucharest, do you think that, let's say, this approach might be of interest?
I think in principle, yes, but I have to speak with the rectors and other specialists and to decide which program exactly should be involved.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. So we propose that the next meeting to be in 2 or 3 weeks. What is your opinion? Which periodicity is better? We are now today on the 12th, so it might be the first week of March. And because Wednesday is 8th.
The problem I see now is that we'll start the second semester and we don't know yet the program, the schedule of our courses. So I cannot, at least I cannot put in my agenda.
We can do the following. We can send a doodle poll. We have all nominated responsibles. We have also the record of this meeting and also the documents that have been presented. So we shall send to whole group. There are 36 representatives from universities that have been nominated to join these groups. And the next meeting we propose to be also with the whole groups, not per program, but to let's call it integrating all area. And we propose it in the first week of March. And because March 8 is a very special day, we propose 9 of March. But as I said, we shall send.
But 9 of March is on Sunday.
Sorry. I was looking to a different calendar. So, yeah. And sorry.
And also, if you want a meeting with all the participants, it should be 1 month in advance. It's very hard to get all of them.
Yeah. So you propose in this case to go on with the next week from 17, not the one with 10? So we can send a doodle poll for 2 or 3 days, alternative days in 1 week. But let us decide at least in which week we can do it.
As I said, from my perspective, even a month would be good.
But of course, you are a president.
No, not from my perspective personally. Look now, we have 3 representatives and none of them is present because they have previous commitments.
Yeah.
And if you are putting in 2 weeks, most probably they will be absent.
So
and without their participation,
let's do it with 17, the week that starts with 17 of March, and we'll see according to the feedback from the doodle poll. If we shall not succeed to obtain conciliation for a specific date, we shall extend it for 1 week more in such a way that we can do it in March, this second meeting. Okay?
Excuse me, Erdem Bey, excuse me. Excuse me, Erdem Bey.
Please.
Here in Azerbaijan, we will have public holidays starting from 20th March till 27th.
Okay, so 17 is better, isn't it?
Yes, it's much better.
So those 3 days, 17, 18, or 19, one
Absolutely.
of these 3 days.
Absolutely.
And we'll see what kind of feedback it's there.
Yeah.
So we shall propose several hours
Mm-hmm.
and we'll see.
Thank you.
Okay, and now I'm coming back again to our colleagues in Istanbul. So, Feyzanım or the other colleagues, would you like to add something as a concluding remark?
Thank you so much. I think it would be good that the working groups, as I said, start as soon as possible because time is running really fast. But this meeting has been very useful for us. It was nice to see everyone, especially meeting new colleagues from the USA, and it's really late right now over there. So thank you for attending to this meeting. It was a pleasure. Hopefully, with the results of these working groups, we will be meeting face to face. That's what we're hoping for the coming periods of time. And thank you, and appreciate everybody's time for being here.
Thank you. Thank you all. So if there is nothing to add, then we stop here and we wish you all an excellent day.
Very nice to meet all of you. Thank you so
you.
much
Have
for
a
your
nice
time.
day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Looking
Erdem.
forward
Thanks.
for the
Bye-bye.
meeting.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Thank you.